What up, world? Waxvillain, Seattle, Washington. You already know what it is. Welcome to Two Gents Fireside Chat. We got a real one today. Jess Lipsky, author of It Ain't Retro. Daptone Records, 21st Century Soul Revolution is in the building. Keep it locked. We'll kick things off when she joins. What's up, mama? My brother, I think you got to drop real quick.
How you doing, man? This is great. Looks like you're doing well. Take care.
Take care. Jess,
how's
how
it
you
going?
doing?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Hey,
Man,
buddy, do you know how to drop real quick?
I don't think so. Shit.
Jess, give us 1 sec. Oh, there we go. All right. Very cool. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You're playing the song that I was like listening to as I was flying into the Bay Area.
Really?
One of my tracks. I like to listen to music that makes me emotional and like fits the theme when I'm flying into the East Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good choice.
Very, very cool. I saw that you were at a wedding earlier. You posted pictures.
Yeah, my brother got married on Sunday.
Wow. Congrats. That's very cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, he's going to Hawaii on his honeymoon tomorrow. Lucky bastard. He has a copy of my book and I signed it. I'm like, please don't read this on your honeymoon.
Love that. If you're ready, I'll go ahead and kick things off.
Let's do it.
Very cool. I want to welcome everybody to Two Gents Fireside Chat. Similar to an interview, Fireside Chats are designed to drive engagement through connection points. I make a point to do research so that I'm not asking guests questions they've already answered, but most importantly, I want to make sure what you hear on a Waxvillain live stream is something that you're not going to hear anywhere else or read anywhere else. We've got about 7 questions plus the lightning round. I'm thinking about 25, 30 minutes or so, but we'll go ahead and kick things off. Joining us all the way live from New York City, Jessica Lipsky. For those that don't know, she is the author of It Ain't Retro, Daptone Records, 21st Century Soul Revolution. In addition to that, Jess is also a reporter and journalist covering culture, music, and politics. She's written for publications like NPR, Newsweek, and Vice. When she doesn't have the pen in her hand, you can catch her on the ones and twos, spinning soul, funk, and global grooves for dance floors of people. My introduction to Jess came earlier in the year when I was doing research on cumbia music, specifically disco resaca. Little did I know the author at the top was someone that I would be talking to and bringing on a Waxvillain live stream later. And while I found very little about this label, Jess's article had so much great information. So it wasn't a surprise that months later, when I saw this mustard yellow and ketchup color promotion, I said, I need to see what this is about. The title was It Ain't Retro, and I saw Daptone Records on it. Now, I'm not someone who typically likes to stare at dry ink on paper for hours. However, when I saw this book, I was interested and I wanted to really find out about what was inside this book because I love Daptone Records. But most importantly, I consider myself to want to be a historian on music. And this was just a great opportunity for me to learn about the history, where things have gone, and of course, the future. What I loved most about the book was the lens that Jess was able to give us. We're able to see the birth of Daptone Records, the evolution, and the future. But what makes this read special is that Jess is storytelling through a who's list of players on the scene, and most importantly, the way that she uses her words to kind of recreate these scenes for us to imagine what it was like in the early days of Daptone when they were in the studio and it was so hot, or how they went about peddling their records. This is definitely a must-have book for anybody who loves Daptone Records and soul music. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest, Jess Lipsky. Jess, welcome.
Wow, thank you. That is like such a kind and like well said introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. I tried.
I also love condiments, so thank you for this like ketchup and mustard situation here.
You know, I had to wonder. I saw that. I'm like, I don't know if I should say that, but maybe some people think it's funny. I can use being colorblind as like my excuse, you know. Let's start by having you tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and I'd love it if you could talk about your connection to music in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jess. I'm a journalist based in Brooklyn, but currently coming to you live from Oakland, California, and hence the like very bright sunshine. And yeah, I'm born and raised in the East Bay and have been a reporter for about 15 years. And in the past 7 or 8, I've really started covering the soul and funk scene, lots of reggae, just general music journalism and subculture. And, you know, I've been a fan of soul music my whole life. So this is sort of like the culmination of a lot of effort and like a lifelong passion. And I feel so honored to like have written something definitive about it.
Very cool. Now, I know that you're a DJ too, and I'd really love the insight as to how you got your name. Maybe you can tell everybody about that.
So this was like a silly name. My DJ name is Terry Dactyl, and I used to have, and it just kind of stuck. I used to have a late night, like super late night, 3 to 6 a.m.
Wow.
Radio show. Yeah,
Wow.
things you can only do when you're in your like early 20s. So I had this radio show called Fly By Night at KUSF 90.3 FM in San Francisco, and for a long time was like trying to figure out what the hell I was going to be called as a new DJ, and people kept offering up different things and nothing really stuck. And my boyfriend at the time had this like army surplus jacket that said Terry on it, and I remember thinking, oh, Terry, that's cool. Terry Dactyl, Fly By Night with Terry Dactyl. And that's been it ever since.
Wow, very cool. Now, how did you get into DJing? I read somewhere that your parents were big supporters of your passion for music.
Yeah, there's always music on in my house growing up. And then when I was like 8 or 9, my folks got me a boombox for my birthday, and like that just changed my whole world.
Wow.
So I could finally like be in control of the radio.
Yeah.
And what I tuned into was like the oldies station out here, which was KFRC, and also 98.1 Kiss FM with the Sunday Super Oldie, hosted by Tony Sandoval. So I was just like super into that and collected lots of CDs at the time, not yet records. And then in college, a friend was like, hey, this radio station is looking for volunteers. Are you interested? I said, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I be? And then 3 months later, I had a radio show. And then when I finally became old enough to DJ in bars, I started doing that. And the rest is sort of history, blurry history, because DJ in bars.
Yeah, love that. I know that you have lots of stories that are your favorites. One of them that I'm really interested in is the story on the Black Panther Party. I'd love to know how you transition, you know, frame of mind for preparing to write a story like that, and then moving on to this book, which seems like it was a Herculean effort. How do you get in the frame of mind for that?
Well, that's a really good question. You know, my favorite stories are are long ones that take like a lot of investigation, that require lots of reporting. I love interviewing folks. So it was just sort of like extrapolating on that and taking all of, you know, the idea of like a longer feature piece, something that's maybe like 2,000 or 3,000 words, and then making it 100,000 words.
Wow.
And, you know, most of this was written during the pandemic. So, you know, the world being shut down provides really great framework for writing.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, it must have been a little easier to connect with musicians because nobody could travel to do shows. For probably a while, studios were locked down and people couldn't get together. What was that kind of like? Did you find it to be easier or not so much?
No, that it's true. It was like an unfortunate positive side effect for me of the pandemic was there were a lot of folks who were around. I was reporting on this for about 3 years.
Okay.
So the pandemic was the last bit of it, and it made things easier. But musicians are never on time. They still weren't on time, and I'm just like, bro, where are you going? Where are you going?
I love that. I love that. I made beats years and years back, and I had like this makeshift studio. And anytime a rapper would come over, they were always late, always late. So I feel you on that. Tell us what this book is about. Tell us who it's for, why we should take note on it.
So It Ain't Retro is a biography of Daptone Records, our favorite. Yes, I'm going to bust out mine too. Oh. It's a bio of Daptone Records, who's probably one of the most prolific recording houses in a generation, responsible for putting out lots of amazing 60s and 70s funk and soul music from the likes of Sharon Jones, Charles Bradley, the Olympians, who else we got there? Shala Daz, et cetera, and also provided a lot of sonic support for pop artists like Amy Winehouse, Bruno Mars, et cetera. And Chris, hold your book up too. So it's a bio of the label, but also a study of the larger revival scene that a lot of us are involved with or just big fans of, and that goes from LA to the Bay and even to Europe and beyond. So. And oh, you asked me who it was for. Sorry, it's for everybody. It's for fans. It's if you like stories. I think the writing's not so bad,
No, it's great. One of my favorite chapters is the introduction of Amy Winehouse. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of love how you can kind of get that sense of the very first meeting when Ronson is kind of looking for all this stuff. And then you get the insight from the artists, Sharon Jones and her initial feeling about, Amy Winehouse coming through, taking the band and everything like that. I think it's fantastic because this is information that we don't see anywhere else. We can't hear it. And to just kind of be sitting and reflecting on this stuff, it's really special if you're a fan of the label and so on like that. I'm looking in the back of the book and I see just a star-studded lineup of major players on the scene. Of all the people you interviewed, which two folks really stand out as kind of a memorable conversation?
I really enjoyed my talk with Tom Brennick. He was really cool and like a serious producer and musician whose hands are like in everything. I was very stressed out to try to get to Sound Factory's studio in LA and got stuck in traffic. And on the way there, when I finally got there, I was very frazzled. And he gave me a really strong beer and some weed. And we just played records all night and talked, and it was great. And so I really enjoyed hearing his stories and his perspective, and also Jacob Blickenstaff, whose photos are throughout the book.
Great pictures.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he's so articulate, and he's literally seeing things through a lens. That one is actually by Farrah Sosa, who's an excellent LA photographer. And she shot my author photo. But Jacob is, he's seeing things through this actual lens, and I think has a very unique perspective. So I liked seeing his sort of from the slight outside looking in view. Okay.
One of the questions I wanted to go back to, a lot of us, we know how music is made. People go into the booth, they record, it's mixed. The next thing you know, the vinyl's on the shelf. For those folks that don't know, could you tell us the process from start to finish? What goes on before we see the book on the shelf?
A lot. It takes forever. So this started out as a scene study. I was at the Funky Soul Weekender a couple years ago in LA, and I'm complaining to Bill Purdy of the Boogaloo Assassins how no editors want to cover this scene that I was pitching on. And after I was finally done complaining, he said, well, have you ever thought about writing something longer than an article? And I was like, do you mean a book? And he said, yeah. I said, oh, yeah, I would write it about all of this. So I went home and I started outlining it. and tried to sell it, but it turns out that a scene study is like both too broad and too niche.
Okay.
So, putting together this book was like outlining that, having to pivot, finding agents, getting those agents, ending those relationships, then trying to find a publisher on your own. And it turns out there's a lot of gatekeeping in publishing.
Really?
So yeah, shocker. Yeah, for example, most major publishing houses won't take unagented submissions. So you create like a big book proposal that has sample chapters and like outlines of everybody you're going to talk to, marketing proposals. And unless somebody else submits that for you, a place like Little Brown or I can't think of another big one right now. They won't take it. So I went to my local library and took every music book off the shelf and made a spreadsheet of all of the different publishing houses, and then saw if they accepted like unagented submissions. And I hooked up with Jawbone Press, and they gave me a book deal like right before New York lockdown.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like prepping, outlining, interviewing, then finishing a manuscript, then drinking heavily, and then actually drink heavily throughout, and going through multiple rounds of edits, and eventually it comes out as a pretty book.
Wow. How many people are actually like involved in the process, or is it really you spearheading and putting on different hats to make sure that things get done?
It depends on what kind of publisher you have. I mean, for me, it was, I definitely had, friends and colleagues who helped me like look over my proposal and look through the book and tell me if anything was wrong and give me advice. But it was really me writing, one guy at Jawbone editing, and us going back and forth, and then cover art and distribution and stuff like that. But it's a small team.
Okay. How did the cover art come about? Were there other samples that you had seen that you were like, ooh, this is really cool? Was there anything that was like a runner-up that's worth mentioning?
Yeah, actually, they sent me a totally different cover initially, and in like a few different colorways, and it was cool, but it was a little too like Summer of Love, and it didn't quite hit. So I could tell that the artist, who's very talented, was like, oh, 60s, it must be hippie. So I put together a mood board of my favorite like Daptone albums and some things from Stax and like cool fonts, and was like, here, maybe this would look good, and also suggested looking at flyers. And then he came back with that beautiful cover, and I was like, damn, that's my book.
No, they definitely nailed it for sure on the cover.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
Do you have the other copies that are in different colorways?
I do. My computer is right in front of me. Let me see if I could look it up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very, very different. Yeah, I have this whole folder that's like book stuff, covers and videos. Oh, here we go. Okay, I don't know if I could like flip the screen around. Let's see here.
This is an exclusive right now.
It is.
Okay.
I mean, it looks dope, right?
Yeah.
But it's not quite right.
I think that's really cool. The one thing that stands out to me is kind of the actual Daptone branding.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they don't have this. I don't think that they have this like gospel Afrobeat funk and soul thing on their actual label, if I remember correctly. But I thought it was cool to have that on there. In any case, didn't end up being the right one, and Daptone didn't like that cover. and I could see why, because it doesn't look like anything that they have.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it looked really neat, and it was like an orange and blue and like all these other things. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. I always love the one-on-one stuff that nobody gets to see. So I saw that one of the things that you really want is kind of, you're hoping for recognition. You want to be recognized as an authoritative figure on the scene, which I naturally think you would be after, pouring an effort like this. I'd love to kind of challenge you and ask you to share with us some of your, favorite artists that maybe we don't necessarily see on all the big covers that you kind of discovered through your research, through the interviews. Same with albums and 45s. Is there something out there that we might have overlooked over these years that you're like, wow, this is gold?
Well, like through the Daptone world specifically, I really dig Joseph Henry and the Mighty Imperials. Like I've Never Found a Girl, which was recorded during the Desco days but not released until the Daptone times. And it's a sort of spin on Eddie Floyd's Never Found Me a Girl to Love Me, or Never Found a Girl to Love Me Like You. And that's like this really nice sort of sweet mid-tempo soul single, and the flip is just like nuts hard funk. And that one's called The Matador, and it's just heat. So that's a nice one. Not like a hard to find 45 at all. I'm pretty sure you can get it on the Daptone website.
Okay.
I also really love Benny Trokin's Turn Back You Fool on Wick Records. That's like part garage, part sweet soul, and has this like really cool like ethereal feeling to it. There's lots of like
I think I remember this one.
Yeah, I can't remember when it came out. I think it's actually fairly recent, but the like whole Wick catalog is really, really nuts. And I think New York has this particular sort of like garage sensibility, and there's a whole scene in that. And they put a nice like Daptone spin on it. Another one that I really like, also not particularly deep, but I just have this really strong memory of hearing it for the first time, was Charles Bradley's Love Jones.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, on a Gunner label. Like, the first time I heard this track, I was like working on top at this like shitty office on top of Penn Station, which if anybody is listening from New York knows, like working on top of Penn Station sucks. You don't want to be there at all. And I was like sitting in my chair and I heard this on my headphones, legit blown away. Like I think the mix on it is really hypnotic, and the horns are just like stabbing through, and yeah, wow. And Charles sang that with LaRose Jackson, and they put out Daptone put out a single from her as part of their like Tomorrow's Hits Today earlier this year.
Okay. What musicians did you really enjoy talking to? Was there anybody that was really funny that you maybe kept in touch with even after, say, the work was done?
Todd Simon, trumpet player. Keep in touch with him. Todd's dope. He's going to be DJing a release party in LA. Freddie DeBow, also very cool. See him around all the time. Binky Griptite. Binky is funny as hell. And yeah, I definitely keep in touch with him. Can I say, by the way, Binky is so funny that this guy drew a mustache on my author photo.
What?
No, not in everybody's book, just in mine. Another person I keep in touch with, Connie Francis, aka Connie the Empress, who DJ'd my release party, had the beautiful suggestion of getting friends who attended to sign my book yearbook style. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, but when I asked Binky, he did that like this like dad thing and drew a mustache on me. The one nice photo I've ever taken.
We've got a couple more questions left. One thing that I thought was really interesting. So here we get this deep history on the origin of Daptone Records, and then Penrose is kind of like the new generation. You know, from your perspective, what makes Penrose and Daptone?
Well, the Penrose is certainly it's an imprint of Daptone, but you know, Gabe's been living in the Inland Empire, which is where he's from in Southern California, for over a decade, and like that has a very, very distinct scene. And Penrose is like the sound of Southern California, I think. It's generally younger, even though you have folks who are like in their 40s and 50s working there. But you know, folks are generally in their 30s and 20s. There a lot of folks on Penrose are Chicano, and it's this very, very sweet sound, which I think is kind of separate from a lot of what Daptone has done. And even though Gabe Roth is still masterminding a lot of this, I think that he's taken a pretty grand step back and been like, how can I help serve this scene that already exists, you know?
Sure.
Though I feel kind of bad because I think that Penrose plans got like shortchanged a bit. They announced the imprint and this big tour, and then the world shut down. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of sucks, but you're seeing things like getting going again.
I love the label. I think it's really cool. And you can definitely catch that new wave through that as opposed to the older sound. So tell me this. I love stories. What's a memory from this chapter of your life, writing this book, that you'll always remember, something that stands out?
I mean, you know, so much of this was written during, you know, a very dark time in our history. So, and I think I really got into the thick of writing in like a New York winter, spring that was particularly depressing. So I don't think I'm going to forget that. But you know, I'm a night writer.
Yes.
And yeah, and you know, I feel like my like real good hours are maybe like 10 or 11 until 2.
Yes.
So
time slot.
I know. I don't know what, I mean, I've never been a good sleeper, and I've always been a night owl, obviously, because I did this like super late night radio show for years.
Yeah.
But one time I was like really in the groove, and I'm like writing a chapter, and I always, like, at the time my desk was in my kitchen, and I was in the studio. And I always leave the kitchen window open, which is also by a fire escape. And I kind of thought, maybe you shouldn't do that. What if like somebody tries to break into your house one day? And I was just like digging into whatever chapter it was. And I had, you know, more than one glass of wine by that point when I hear this like little scratching at my window. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is that? And then I hear it again. I'm like, shit, is somebody trying to break into my house? Like, is this the day that I'm actually going to get robbed? And then I look at the fire escape, and it is this enormous raccoon that's trying to break into my house. And like, I'm multiple stories up, and I was just like, how'd this raccoon get up here? And he was looking in, and I'm like, nah, buddy, there's nothing here for you. And then he went up to the next floor. So maybe not like the biggest event from a chapter in my life, but
that's kind of major.
It sticks out. You didn't get in though. I've always wanted to like pet a raccoon or like high five one with their cute little hands.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say a rat. I really did. And I was.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Squirrels would be okay. Rats, I don't want to do anything with.
Yeah.
But I guess like to give you maybe a more serious answer, I think that this has been like a really wonderful opportunity to just like meet new people and like deepen relationships with folks that, you know, I had sort of seen out and about for a long time, or maybe seen on stage, and just gain knowledge. So like I think I'll look back on this and be like, wow, what a cool opportunity you had to like learn from people and hear their stories.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. What kind of music were you listening to as you were writing? Was there something that was like a mainstay, or were you just kind of exploring?
Oh no, I mean, no such thing as like a one record, like one writing record. It'll be like anything. I was listening to a lot of live streams, you know, at the time. Anything from salsa to reggae to soul to, you know, just like my own collection. I dug Questlove stuff a lot over the pandemic. The only thing I can't listen to when I'm writing is hip hop, because it's just like too many words.
Okay.
And, yeah. So I get I'm like, all the words are coming in here. I can't put them out there.
All right, it's time for the lightning round. Are you ready? We got new questions because this is your second time on Waxvillain live stream, so I had to update that. I had to revamp.
Oh yeah, bring it on. I got you.
All right. Go-to online shop that you would shop records at.
I don't shop online too much. I'll buy like from Bandcamp, from labels directly, but I prefer to like to shop in person if possible. Shout out to Record City in Brooklyn and Miss T's Records and 12s and Amoeba. All very nice places.
Okay. Name a musician on the soul scene you recommend we go check out.
Trish Killa, Jackie Mendez, and Lady Ray, who has been all up on the scene forever, but has like such an incredible voice. God damn.
And are we going to say Andre Cruz and Chris Lujan?
Well, no, I don't like those guys at all. I don't know them. Gross.
I love that. That's great.
Definitely. I heard their new record, and
On fire.
Yeah. I was like trying to get some work done, and then I had to like go and call Andre and be like, yo.
I'm sending them texts like, yo, I can't believe this song right here. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It goes like from like that Sweet Soul to Stevie Highs, and it's real groovy.
I can't wait for that one.
Got to keep your eye out for it.
You like Latin music. Name an album from your collection that you'd recommend to a friend.
I love Boogaloo Assassins, Old Love Dies Hard. The Discos Resaca Collective,
Yes.
their album, that is hella good. And also my friend Diana Hernandez, who has a really cool documentary project called Urbano Street, has this had this comp called Spanish Ska,
Okay.
and it's just all sorts of ska covers in Spanish by a variety of bands from around Latin America.
I love that.
That's really neat.
Okay. All right. This is always my favorite one. If Jess had a theme song, what would it be?
Well, today, I would say it would be Switchblade by the Soul Providers,
Okay.
which is that Sharon one. But I would also go with Dap Walk by Ernie and the Top Notes.
I'll have to write that one.
That one's it's such a happy tune. Like my theme music has to be kind of like jaunty and funky because I've been told I have like this very hard, distinct walk.
Okay.
So yeah, like I gotta have good theme music.
I love that. All right. Let's see here. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be and why?
Flight for obvious reasons.
Okay.
Or the ability to speak and understand any language.
That's
like, yeah, that would be really cool, right? And just like think how many people you can talk to and stories that you would hear and good eavesdropping that you can do. Yeah, it would be probably maybe even the better power than flight. I don't know.
I'm gonna go with finding the silver lining. That's like my superhero power. As long as I have that, I can navigate any situation.
I like that. A highly attainable superpower as well.
3 musicians who inspire you.
Sharon Jones, the Queen, absolutely. James Brown, and then I also really like Joe Bataan. I think he's
I love Joe.
What a badass.
So you're a writer. I need you to recommend a book that we should check out, maybe music related, soul, funk, you know of?
The last one that I could not put down was Alice Baggs' memoir called Violence Girl.
Okay.
From East LA Rage to Hollywood Stage.
Okay.
It's a story about growing up Chicana in LA and becoming like a front woman of punk and hardcore in the early 80s. And it's raw and hilarious. And I was super into that.
Okay. Very cool. Go-to magazine for music.
Wax Poetics.
I'm so glad. I love that magazine. That raised me. That raised me on vinyl records and really kind of like, understanding the crate digging culture. I mean, without that, I don't know how I would have, been able to take the training wheels off.
Oh, absolutely. That magazine is like total inspiration for the music journalism that like I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Real goals.
Andre Torres was the original editor, and I loved his work. When he left, I thought it was kind of different, but I'm so thankful that, I was into music when they were still pumping out those magazines, including 45s with the magazines. And
right.
Subscriber. I love that stuff.
Oh, I have one in my record bag right now. Actually, I also am going to have a story in the next issue of Wax Poetics about a woman named Sheila Brody, who was a bride of Funkenstein, one of the backup singers for George Clinton's band, and was an original Mary Jane girl.
Okay. We're going to have to transition from the Fireside real quick. Tell us more about how you got connected with Wax Poetics.
Well, I knocked down Andre Torres' apartment door once.
What?
I did not realize it was his apartment door. I was just like, I've been pitching these people for so damn long. Why are they not responding to my emails? And I'm like, wait, I'm in New York right now. Their offices are in New York. I didn't realize they had closed their offices by this point and were actually having trouble and about to put the magazine to bed. So I saw that their office was right around the corner from where I was living at the time. And
You pulled up.
I pulled up with my resume in hand, and I was just like, hi, I'm Jess. Why aren't you answering my emails? And dude answers with his not wearing a shirt. He has 2 kids with him, and he's very confused. And I was just like, oh, shit.
That's very New York, too. Just pulling up. Why aren't you answering my emails?
Yeah, why aren't you answering my emails? But my emails, though. they sort of stopped publishing for a while after that, and I got hooked up with them because I was writing about the relaunch, and know Monk One, one of the editors there, and yeah, it's just gone from there. And when I see that in print, man, I'm going to be so stoked.
Wow. So, how do we get Wax Poetics today? Because they're doing it different, right?
Yeah, they have a subscription model, but I do believe you can just like purchase single issues.
Okay.
I'm a little unclear on that. I subscribe to the annual subscription. In fact, I actually casually did not plan this, have my copy.
I love that cover with the red.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. But the Tammy one on the back is just, their art is insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that magazine. I'm so glad we talked about that. Okay, last lightning round question. An upcoming album that you're looking forward to?
Well, you like started me on it already. I'm really looking forward to Chris and Andre's album coming out. So that was going to be the one that I said. But I think that there, I mean, there's so much music coming out, man. There's so much. I mean, I listen to a lot of reggae, and All Michael's Affair and Liam Bailey just came out with a record that it's really interesting. I'm still like wrapping my head around it because it's so experimental.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are, I guess, my main two that are on the top of my head.
So big recommendation though on the Bailey record?
Yeah. I mean, like if you it's like it's not straight ahead anything. If you want to listen to something and like think for that one. Yeah.
I'm always thinking. I need to go get that now.
Yeah.
That takes us to the end of our Fireside Chat and interview. Before we go, I would love it if you could tell people where they can buy this and how we can stay, up to date with the latest and greatest of Jess Lipsky.
Well, I would love to tell you that. So you can get Idiot Retro on Amazon, but if you don't want to give Jeff Bezos or whoever their CEO is now your money, you can go to Rough Trade. If you are in New York, you can get it through Green Apple Books or at Record City in Flatbush. You can buy it at Amoeba in San Francisco, at Green Apple Books in San Francisco, at Miss T's Records and Vintage in Oakland, and at various, record stores.
I got a link in my bio too.
Yeah. Raza del Sol is also selling a few copies.
Shout out to Raza del Sol.
For real. I mean, this is one of those things, right? Like there are so many people out there that are so passionate about this music and like culture, and it is a beautiful, inspiring thing.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for coming through. Congratulations. I'm just so proud that you put the time into making this book. I think it's fantastic. I absolutely love the read. You saw my messages months back when I was like stoked after reading chapters. I really hope that everyone viewing takes the time to take a look at this book and goes and picks it up, because I think it is an essential read, and it's super informative. But the best part is, like I said, you're able to take those words and paint a picture with it. So thank you.
Dude, thank you. I appreciate your support and everything that you've been doing for this. So big up yourself.
Anytime you need anything, Waxvillain has you.
I know it.
All right, Jen, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Waxvillain, Seattle, Washington, and we're out. Have a good night.